Gonna call the meeting to order. This meeting looks a little bit different. We've already started the meeting and accepted the agenda. We were in executive session, so we're going to start with recognitions, and we'll start with Snibar Elementary STEM Club.
So we have Snibar Elementary STEM Club with Miss Mueller and Miss Galvin here to talk about their accomplishment.
Good evening. I'm Amy Galvin, and this is Kayla Mueller. Thank you for giving us a moment to share about our STEM Club students and their recent success in the Burns and McDonald Battle of the Brains STEM competition. This year,
Snibar Elementary's STEM Club competed in Battle of the Brains, a regional STEM competition where students design an exhibit in hopes it will be featured in Science City at Union Station.
students were tasked to create 6 hands-on activities for the exhibit, create a billboard, share an at-home science project, create a budget, and a commercial. Our students designed an exhibit called Out of This World to teach people about space through hands-on activities like solar eclipses, constellations, moon phases, zero gravity, and rovers.
Out of 710 proposals submitted across the region, our students placed in the top 20. That puts them in roughly the top 3% of all teams, which is an incredible accomplishment.
Because of their creativity and hard work, our school was also awarded a $2,500 STEM grant to support future learning and innovation.
We are incredibly proud of these students for their creativity, teamwork, and perseverance, and we're grateful for a district that supports opportunities that allow students to think big and build bold ideas. We can't wait to see what they will do in the future. Thank you.
Fifth grade. All fifth grade. Mm-hmm.
Now we have Coach Julie Riley and the girls swim and dive state qualifiers.
Okay, I already gave him their certificate, so I'll. First of all, thank you so much for honoring the Grain Valley Swim and Dive tonight. It has been a great year for the Grain Valley Girls Swim and Dive team. I've been blessed to work with such an incredible group of young athletes. As you will hear, they're an extremely active group of athletes. They do well not only in their sports, other activities, their studies in the community. The entire team needs to be commended for all they did this year. Grain Valley High School Girls Swim and Dive team won their first conference title this year. Yeah. Which means this year was a Grain Valley sweep. We won girls and boys conference this year. Both these girls dominated the pool. They won every event but 2 at conference. This year I had a record number of swimmers. Therefore, we had the depth to win conference. Platte County, our rival, asked me if I could sit down and rest at conference so he could pass out the medals. See, the winning coach passes out the medals for each event. And while we were winning all the events, I told the Platte County coach that I needed him to just scream louder for my girls to swim faster so that they could beat Platte County. He told me no, that he wasn't going to do that because they weren't having any problem whatsoever beating Platte County. My first athlete is Taylor Twyman. She's a freshman, a first-time swimmer. Has never swam or been on any swim team. She's a natural athlete, and she really pulled through for the swim team. She got an all-conference first-team title in the 200 IM relay and an honorable mention conference title in the 200 IM relay, or 200 IM and the 100 free. She made it on the state team where she swam the 200 IM relay. She is also part of the Grain Valley High School softball team, and she was awarded with a tie with the Rising Star or Rookie of the Year. Thank you, Taylor. Reese Enlow, also a freshman, first-time swimmer. I remember at the beginning of the year, she felt she was not that good. I told her she was doing awesome. She got a conference honorable mention title in 50 free and the 100 free, and she made it on the state team and swam the 200 IM relay and was also an alternate for the 200 free and the 400 free relay at state. Miss Reese is also on the Grain Valley High School softball team, and she was also awarded the Rising and Rookie of the Year award. Thank you, Reese. Ellie Cater is my third freshman on the state team. She swam the 200 IM relay, and Miss Ellie also got her first individual state consideration cut in the 100 breaststroke. She got first team all-conference title in the 200 IM and the second team all-conference title in the 500. Conference honorable mention title in the 100 breast. She's also on the Grain Valley track and Grain Valley golf team. She is very active at the pool, working on swimming almost daily. She was awarded this year the All In, All the Time award. Thank you, Ellie. Miss Izzy's not here tonight because apparently it's Mr. Eagle night, and so Miss Izzy did great this year. She was the only diver that Grain Valley had this year, and she won conference, and that helped cinched our win. Rin Cater, a junior. This is her first year swimming for Grain Valley High School Swim and Dive. She is a versatile swimmer, helping to fill difficult event spots. Rin got a conference honorable mention, 200 IM and 100 fly. She was an alternate on the state team for the 200 IM relay. Rin is also part of the Grain Valley High School golf team, and she's very active with her swimming year-round. Thank you, Rin. Molly Jones is a junior, and you may recognize Miss Molly from softball. She is a pitcher for Grain Valley High School softball, and we all know how well that women's softball did this year. At conference, her swimming helped the team win. She also was part of the state team as an alternate for the 200 IM relay. This year, while on our swim team, we were in a meet in Columbia, Missouri. We were staying at a hotel also hosting a high school softball meeting where we ran into the Grain Valley High School softball coach. And he told me he wanted all of his players to join the swim team because he felt it really helped his players tremendously. Thank you, Molly. Caroline Hooper is a senior. She is currently involved in the EMT Fire Science program at Fort Osage. She is also involved in Skills USA. Caroline has been swimming for years, and this is one of my versatile swimmers on the team. If I need a spot filled, Miss Caroline always was willing to take the spot. She can do all strokes, at which many swimmers cannot, but Caroline has been on the Grain Valley swim team all 4 years. She was conference honorable mention in the 200 and the 500 free this year. She also was an alternate for the state 200 IM relay and the 400 free relay. And she's also the daughter of Aaron Hooper. Thank you, Caroline. Aubrey Twyman is a junior. She is in her 3rd season of swimming. She's also involved in marching band. She stays very active in the off season with both swimming and band. She was this year's all-conference first team in the 200 IM relay, conference honorable mention, the 100 back, and the 100 fly. She's been working hard all year in swimming, and she got her first individual state qualifying cut in the 100 back. She was part of the 200 free relay at state, where they earned all-state title, 8th team 200 free relay, and got a state honorable mention in the 400 free relay. Thank you, Aubrey. Kate Eppel, a senior. Has been swimming for over 10 years, and she has swam for Grain Valley all 4 years. She is a very versatile swimmer and usually swims her specialty, which is the 200 free and the 100 free. She was all-conference first team in the 200 free and the 100 free, the 200 free relay, and the 400 free relay. And at state, she qualified for all 4 of those. She earned a podium finish in the 200 free relay at state with an all-state title. She also earned a state honorable mention title in the 400 free relay. Kate has qualified for state all 4 of her high school years, and she's leaving high school swimming with 4 school records. And this year, she was voted for the 2026 Golden Eagle Award. Thank you. Emily Holsworth is a senior. She's involved also in the CTC program for EMT at Fort Osage. She also participates for Grain Valley track team. She's been a competitive swimmer for years and has been on the Grain Valley High School swim team all 4 years. This year, she was all-conference first team in the 200 IM relay, all-conference second team in the 100 bag. She was conference honorable mention in the 50 free, and she made the state team every year through high school. This year, she swam the 200 IM relay and the 100 bag. She's at track. Ellie Martin is a senior, a very busy young lady. She has been a competitive year-round swimmer for over 11 years. However, this year she found herself with an injury prior to the season, which she limped through the season with extremely impressive results. She was all-conference first team in the 200 IM, the 100 breast, the 200 free relay, and the 400 free relay. She made every swimming consideration cut offered at state except the 500, which I wouldn't let her swim because of her injuries. At state, Ellie received a state honorable mention in the 200 IM. She was also part of the 200 free relay, making it to the podium for all-state 8th team title. She was also part of the 400 free relay, getting honorable mention. Ellie has made state all 4 of her high school years in every event. She also broke the school record this year in the 100 breaststroke, and she will be leaving high school holding 7 school records. Ellie, yeah. Ellie received a dedication award for her 12 years of swimming. Last but not least, Callie Beard is a senior. She's very involved in show choir and other school activities. She too has been swimming over 10 years. This year, Callie was all-conference first team in the 50 free, the 100 fly, the 200 free relay, and the 400 free relay. At state, she swam the 100 fly and got an individual podium finish for 8th with an all-state title, as well as broke her own school record in the 100 fly. She was also in the 200 free relay with a podium finish at 8th with an all-state title. She also received a state honorable mention in the 50 free and the 400 free relay. This is Callie's second year of getting 2 medals at state for Grain Valley Swim and Dive. No other athletes on the team has ever done that. Good job, Callie. Callie will be leaving Grain Valley with 4 school records. She was also nominated this year for Golden Eagle Award. Thank you, Callie. As you can hear, these girls are not only competitive inside and out of swimming, they're highly productive, academic achiever, outstanding community leaders, and Grain Valley should be very proud of these girls. This year, I'm losing a lot of experienced athletes. These athletes have been instrumental in help driving the numbers up for swim and dive. A lot of these swimmers also have been involved in our community swim lessons program. We're launching our 4th year of hosting the Grain Valley and community swim lessons. We have gotten currently 60 swimmers registered. Hopefully, with how well our athletes are doing, our swim lessons, and thank you to the board, will help us keep launching our swim program. As you all know, we have launched the Grain Valley Middle School program, which I have 50 boys and girls in the program right now. Hopefully, we're on our way to growing, but nevertheless, I'm very proud of all of these athletes. Thank you.
Our last recognition is the boys and girls wrestling state qualifiers with Coach Horner.
Yeah, they're right here.
Oh, there we go.
They're locked. Don't worry. They got it. They're way more prepared than me. Soren? Go stand up front. Killer?
If any parents wanted to get pictures of the swim and dive team, you're welcome to go out and do that as well.
Brody? Jay? Cecilia. Oh, boy. Official. Brooklyn. Just say BK. What am I going to do? Nah, I don't need this. Good evening. I'm Donnie Horner. I'm the head wrestling coach for the boys and girls. First, I'd just like to give a shout out to Dr. Welly. I know you're heading on your way out, so we wanted to give you a t-shirt, just a little something to remember us by, so appreciate ya. I would have had it folded, but I'm not good at that. So, I want to take a moment. Last year I wrote out like a bunch of notes and then I didn't read it, so I got smart this year and I just wrote their names down. Cool. So the first athlete I want to talk about is Brooklyn Kupke. Brooklyn, I'm doing an age order, BK. Okay, you raise your hand and do a little twirl. Brooklyn joined our wrestling team last year as an 8th grader. She wrestled for the middle school program's a little short. It's only 6 weeks. But BK, I think she'd tell you she fell in love with it, or at least liked it enough to keep going. So over the past year, she's been a real ride or die athlete. We've been, hey, you're going to Indiana, there she goes. She's never really argued, and she's done everything we've asked. You'll hear a common theme. We just have really amazing kids. She's been super coachable and listens, and that's why she's qualified for state as a freshman. She's also a super great big sister. Like more than half our athletes, she volunteers and helps out with like the youth program in some form or another that her little brother's a part of, and we're just really proud of Brooklyn Kupke. You want me to use? Just like this? Oh, I'm on YouTube or something? Yes. This is awesome. I've always wanted to be an influencer. So it's great. Killer, Kaler Bird. We call him Killer. If you check the back of your shirt, Dr. Welly, that is his name. It's his government name. It's official. It's on the shirt. Okay. Killer started wrestling much like BK as an 8th grader and fell in love with it. Killer's had a little bit of a different path than you probably hear of your traditional wrestlers. A lot of time, especially older wrestlers, will tell you about their massive weight cuts and their hours in the sauna and all the running. We've been shoving PB&Js down Killer's throat, trying to get him to gain weight. So last year, Killer came into us as a little bit of an undersized freshman, and this year, as you can see, he is a massive monster. But much like BK, Killer is an absolutely amazing human, super coachable. Probably the thing I am most proud about Killer is that he's an excellent example, not only to his little brother Porky, but to every kid in our youth program. Killer shows up a lot of Saturdays to watch his little brother and help coach. And we actually had a talk last weekend at the district tournament about how every little kid just wants to be like the big kids they see, and they just want to be like Killer. And I'm really proud because I hope we have a billion Killers coming through. So, Kaler Bird. Our next state qualifier was Brody Davis. Brody, hand up, a little turn. Nope. Oh, there. Yeah. Oh, dang it. All right. Brody Davis is a legacy. His older sister wrestled for us, and I've been really excited to have Brody Davis on the team for a number of years, getting to see him come through the youth program. And this year, I think everybody else got to see what a lot of us saw the entire time. Brody was a state qualifier, made it all the way to the bubble. We're super excited for what he's going to do next year on the wrestling. But again, more importantly, Brody is an amazing human being. If you told me that Brody missed more than 10 youth practices this year on top of a rigorous academic schedule where he does amazing, he's a Scholar All-American, on top of a wrestling schedule, on top of maintaining weight, I'd be shocked because he's always there. And again, he's setting this example for what's expected for years to come. Our youth program goes down to 5-year-olds, kindergartners, and they're going to remember Brody Davis because he's there and he cares about them. And I'm really proud of Brody Davis. Brody Davis. Soren Amua, hand up, little turn. Yeah, there we go. Oh, half turn. All right. Soren Amua, who would probably tell you how much he doesn't like wrestling, but that would be a lie. All right, and we all know it, as you can tell by the smile on his face. Soren is an incredibly hard worker and an incredible athlete. He's also a member of our football team, where he is one of our starting running backs. Soren is another great human being, more importantly, who again maintains a rigorous academic schedule, is a Scholar All-American, but again, does a great job of leaving a legacy. We spend a lot of time in our program talking about what we're leaving behind more so than what we're actually doing right now. Soren has 2 young nephews who are already involved in wrestling, who absolutely worship the ground that Soren walks on. I'm pretty sure no matter what he told them to do, they would do it, and that includes running through a brick wall, okay? And Soren does an excellent job of leading them the right way and getting us excited to see what the future holds. He's also a super athlete who maybe will take me down someday in the future. Right, Soren? Maybe. All right. Sorry. Cecilia Del Rio. Hand up. Little twirl. Yeah, there we go. Good. Cece is a state qualifier for us, and she's another legacy. Had an older sibling go through the program. I want to speak on Cece's toughness, a legacy of toughness. Cece probably won't be happy about me talking about it, but Cece is should probably be in a cast, full body, mummified head to toe, ancient Egyptian style. But her toughness is at an extreme level, whether it's a knee that's black and blue all the way up and down, or a shoulder that you can't lift up even with a brace or without. She pushed through it all. It really limited the amount of matches she could get this season, but that didn't matter because of her toughness. She pushed through numerous injuries and a schedule that wasn't really fair to her to qualify for state in the district tournament. And I'm excited to see what she can do when she does get healthy. So, Cece Del Rio. I'm going to speak about them separately, but these next 2 are going to break me, although I don't know when it's going to be. Zach Bleese and Jaden Maley, raise your hands. Little twirls. Yeah, Jay, that was awesome. I got this job here 4 years ago. I left a job where I felt safe and comfortable to come to a place where I didn't really know many people. And I got to meet Zach and Jay. And from day one, before I'd stepped foot in Grain Valley High School, Zach and Jay have been your ride or die, everything a coach could ask for athletes. It didn't matter if I said, hey, we're going to Indiana, pack your bags. There was no argument. There's no anything, whether it's Fargo or Minnesota. I actually joked with Jay this morning that pack your bags, we're going to go to the Middle East, and we're going to fight the war and win. And she said, cool, coach, give me a minute, I'll be back. They've done everything I've asked and more, and I just, as a group, I couldn't be more appreciative of these 2 for what they are leaving behind, the legacy of just doing everything the right way. To speak about Jaden individually, Jay is the heart, the soul, and the backbone of our team. There's not a human being, not today, not gonna break me today. They'll never let me live it down if I cry, so. Heart, soul, backbone of our team, because every single individual that walks in the door, Jaden welcomes with open arms. She's always there. She's like a magnet. She's electric. She makes these amazing videos and makes sure that everyone is included. It's impossible for anybody to not have a smile on their face around Jaden Maley. Ooh. Zach Bleese. Ooh. You're not going to do it, Zach and Jay. I should have got the paper this year. You're not going to do it, though. Zach Bleese has left an incredible legacy here in so many ways. Not only is he a great teammate, big brother to every kid on the team. He's there if you need a ride. He's there to pull you, get you on a run if you need it. He's set the example academically for what's expected of our team. He's number one in his class, and it's not a surprise to anybody that's on the wrestling team, because you're not going to find a harder worker than Zach Blease. He's jumped in and done everything he's asked from day one, moment one. More often than not, I don't spend my time trying to get Zach to practice. It's trying to keep him from working his body to death. He is the perfect example of everything you want your kids to be, including my own. Like, I couldn't be more proud that I took Zach to an all-star duel on Tuesday, and the first thing my kid did was jump into his arms. All of them are just amazing human beings that I'm really really proud to be a part of their lives. Snake wall back. Oh, man. Picture.
You want to get in it?
Nope. Yeah, we should have done it first. Dr. Welly should get in it with his t-shirt.
Find a window.
You can't beat a good t-shirt. I didn't. And if they tell me I did. You got me really. Huh? I beat him up too. I'm just saying. What? Again? You guys, you can go. Hey, we're good to go.
All right, that will wrap up our recognitions. Thank you to all the families and friends that came out tonight. At this time, if you do not wish to stay for the rest of the meeting, you are welcome to start making your ways to the exits. All right, we will proceed forward with the agenda. At this time, it's time for patron comments on the agenda. We don't have anybody signed up, so that will move us to reports. The first item under reports will be the staff training, Teaching with Dignity.
Denality's out of the room. Can I say to you guys, though, we have not had a better coach. Like, Horner would kill me if he knew I was talking right now. He's giving me a bad look. If you, Brooklyn is not my first kid to come through Green Valley, and she's my second. Horner loves our kids so much. Every day on the first day of school, he calls our kids to his room. He takes their picture and sends them to us with like a first day of school thing so that we have the first day of school picture. He checks their grades and makes sure that they have straight A's more than me. He knows down to the point, or they're getting help, right? For my kids, I expect A's. So he makes sure that they're getting the right grades. Like, I could not ask. If someone doesn't have money, Horner's like, yep, I'll get you today. Like, never anything. Someone didn't get a poster done in time for, hey, you know, their good job, we're headed to state. Horner stays up with his wife and makes sure that they're not left out. Like, you could not have gotten a better teacher or coach for our kids and for our kids coming up than him. So I feel like we recognize these kids, but there's a really great teacher behind that. And he's our second kid to have him. So I will get on the agenda eventually, but I think that the only thing that we could do to make our wrestling program better is our girls need some facilities. And so I'll get on the agenda. I didn't know I needed to sign up to be on the agenda, but I never want to take our girls away from him, but we're getting too big. So, but thank you. Thank you for giving us him and keep supporting him. Thank you.
Stick with us, everybody. We'll get there. I know. All right, we're gonna move down to the superintendent's report, and when we get the Zoom up and going, we'll pause that and come back.
Yeah, so I draw the board's attention to the bar graphs that really show that we are trending appropriately for our revenues to date and expenditures to date. We have not needed to make another supplemental payment for our health premium, so we're tracking well there. And we have updated the attendance, so we kind of took our winter flu hit, but we are just below 90% right now, with 90% being the goal. I do want to point out, and this is, I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory about the SAT, the multiplier with the state funding formula. A year ago, we were concerned that the SAT was not, it was triggered to be funded at a higher level, and we were concerned at this time last year that it maybe wouldn't be, that the governor, the legislature and the governor ultimately wouldn't give us what the formula was calling for. And so we had been planning that we were not going to be able to do raises or add to the base on the salary schedules. Long story short on that, the SAT did get fully authorized, and so we were able to come back and add to the base across the board with all employee categories. That would have brought the SAT to $7,145. Now, what happens in the fall when we start getting our monthly state payments is I don't remember a time when we've ever gotten the full promised amount at the start of the school year. They dial it back a little bit. They want to see that state revenues come in appropriately, and the economy drives some of that with sales tax. And so this year was no different. We have been getting our monthly payments. They are not funded on 7145. They started in the 6,000s. They've been getting bigger. The last couple maybe have been at $6,900. We learned this week that we should plan that we are not going to get more than $6,900 for the remainder of the school year. Now, we're not hearing this from official sources necessarily. We're hearing this from the gurus who read the tea leaves. So DESE did say it. Okay, so it was a DESE message. So it's official. And that's just looking at the state of affairs on how tax revenues are coming in, how the economy is doing. In years where we are underfunded all school year, but then in the end, the budget at the state level turns out, then we'll get all of our missing money in June, and it makes us whole. And so we've been thinking all along, assuming that's what is going to happen this year. So this week, we're told from DESE to not expect that to happen. So Mr. Hooper has done a calculation, an SAT of $6,900 instead of $7,145 puts us a little over $1 million short for the current budget year. Now, we haven't had a lot of time to work through this news, but I don't, like, we need to be concerned at a level that we're certainly not going to have a surplus this year. We will be at a deficit. But there's something else that we did. We made a purchase of 4 school buses at roughly $500,000. And when it gets to June and we do our rollover from operating into our capital, we can account for the expenditures on those buses. So we can drop this, whether it's $1 million or it's $1.1 million deficit, we can drop it down by $500,000. So the overall impact, if it doesn't get any worse than this, like we can stomach this. But I wanted you to know that. We're going to learn more at the end of, yes, next week is spring break, but this is when Missouri Association of School Administrators has their business meeting on Friday. We're going to learn more, hopefully next Friday, and certainly by our April board meeting. By then, we will bring forward as much of a budget with anticipated revenues or a range of revenues for the upcoming school year as possible, and continue to update the board on where we're at on the current year. So once we've done our presentation and we've heard from our teachers tonight, if you don't mind giving it back to me, and I have a few more topics I want to bring up and give you a chance to answer any questions on that.
Very good. We will pause the superintendent's report and move back to the staff training, teaching with dignity.
Dr. Allen, is anything you want to serve this up for us, what we're about to participate in?
I just wanted to welcome John Crownapple, part of Dignity Consulting, that's going to give us a brief, about 10-minute overview of the services that he could partner with Grain Valley Schools to offer, and then give a little opportunity for some questions that the board may have upon his 10-minute kind of pitch for you. So I'm going to turn it over to John Crownapple here, assuming you can hear us okay and you're ready to go. We sure can.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. My name is John Crownapple. I'm coming to you from Erie, Colorado, just north of Denver. My family and I have lived here for almost a year now, after about 40 years on the East Coast, just outside of Washington, D.C. I've been an educator for 31 years, been a school improvement consultant since 2016, and I'm just going to walk you through our approach and a little bit about the proposal, and then I welcome your questions. So we have this way of phrasing the way we approach school improvement, belonging through dignity, and I want to emphasize the word through because over the past few years, belonging has become a bit of a buzzword, and really when the rubber hits the road, the human experience inside the workplace and inside of the classroom ends up being the degree to which people feel their dignity is being honored. So we've tended to focus a lot on the entirety of that phrase, belonging through dignity. And what I would invite you to think about is really what our core purpose is, which is what does it take to bring out the best in people? What does it take to bring out the best in people at work? What does it take to bring out the best in people in the classroom? This is really transferable to any context, including families, marriages, etc. So we'll circle back to that. And that is the primary question that my colleague Floyd Cobb and I were wrestling with around 2016. We ended up writing a book called Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity. It was published in 2019, just a couple of months before the world shut down in spring of 2020. We are now joined, our group is joined by Summer Snyder, who you see in the lower right-hand corner. She made it her mission to implement the ideas in Belonging Through a Culture of Dignity around 2021 as she was returning from a district office position
that was released in 2025, not even a year ago. So first of all, I just want to touch on what is belonging. Like I said, belonging is a bit of a buzzword. It's been defined a number of different ways, which is part of why it's a tricky concept nowadays. Because unless there is consensus around what it means, it could mean anything. Even in research, it's been defined about a dozen different ways. So Brene Brown is a popular, writer, and she's also a sociologist, and she writes about belonging a lot. And one of the things she reminds us about when it comes to belonging is that it's an irreducible need. We all need to feel like we belong, and she combines it with love and belonging, which I'll come back to because that's really important. This quote, the second part of this, is that when we don't get our need to belong met, we get sick, right? And not only that, I would say we become vulnerable to bad influences in an attempt to meet our unmet belonging needs. So she's one of the people who talk a lot about belonging nowadays. Another one that we've learned a lot from is a man by the name of Professor John Powell. He talks about belonging as more of being fully human. That when you belong, you have your voice matters, right? It's like you can have a say in things. That doesn't mean you get everything that you want, but you can participate in the process when you belong. Now, going all the way back to Abraham Maslow's work on the hierarchy of needs, which we're talking about, we're not a full century out from when he was doing his work, but we're over a half a century. He created a hierarchy of human needs, and the basic needs are at the bottom. Physiological needs, food, shelter, that type of thing. We have safety needs, and then the third rung on his hierarchy, he labeled love and belonging. From there, if you look at step 4, he described what he called esteem needs, of which achievement is one of them. Now, we chose, when we wrote our book, our first book, to describe the 4th rung as achievement because it's such a part of the way we talk in schools when we're talking about test scores and that type of thing. And then, of course, the 5th rung is self-actualization. Now, the other thing that we did is we took the liberty to transform the shape of his hierarchy into stairs because we feel like it's a good way to look at it because if like one step is not solid or it's rotten, it's going to be really hard to progress to the next level. As a matter of fact, we argue that a lot of what we have set up, not only in the history of schools, but also just in society at large, is an inversion of rungs 3 and 4, where people have to prove that they deserve to belong, and it ends up being quite an unhealthy dynamic. And even, in this modern world of social media, Jonathan Haidt, is made the news all over the place for his book, The Anxious Generation, and in there, he cites research on social media, especially there's one study or one set of conclusions from studies on young girls and Instagram and how their self-worth ends up getting, wrapped up in things like how many followers they have, how many likes. So again, you get this achieve to belong. If I have just, if I have the right amount of likes or right amount of social media followers, then I'll feel good about myself. And it just doesn't work that way. It ends up being hollow and people end up falling into, a lot of traps, including mental health and behavior and all kinds of things. So this image right here has really resonated with people over the years because they can see it in their own lives and their own organizations. And what we say is this is an inversion of our basic need as human beings, but it very much reflects the world that we live in. And when we are stuck in this dynamic of achieving to belong, it affects not only the way that we perform, but it affects something quite deeper, which is our nervous system, because when we are not in a situation where our belonging needs are being met in a healthy way, our nervous system is basically on guard, scanning the environment for signals that we belong. And when we don't get those signals, we get into what Daniel Goleman called the amygdala hijack back in the 90s. And what that is basically is our nervous system downshifts, where we go into what is described as fight, flight, or freeze mode. And what results are a lot of bad outcomes, underperformance, disruptive behavior, irrational decisions. And people just can't be at their best when their belonging needs aren't being met in healthy ways. And if we just look at some of the recent challenges across the nation with our workforce in schools, teacher support in general, everything from recruitment and retention, teacher shortages of high quality teachers, well-being when it comes to things like burnout, stress, pressure, morale, and then of course there's performance and quality. When we turn to the research, belonging ends up being a positive correlate to all of these things. In other words, we have a much more likely chance of recruiting and retaining teachers, ensuring teacher well-being, supporting performance, et cetera, if we can do our very best to make sure that our staff feels like they belong at work. And it's the same thing with students. And this is just a recent look at 3 of the top challenges in recent history here in terms of students in schools, everything from showing up to performing, which is been kind of an evergreen type of concern for parents and boards and educators. And then, of course, student mental health. It's just exploded after 2020. And it ends up being, the same correlate that when students feel like they belong, they end up not only doing a lot better in school, but they end up doing a lot better in life. And I just wanted to show you a few data points. The Aspen Institute did a report about a year and a half ago where they were citing data that was mainly 2021, 2022, but they labeled this talk and the resources that they put out, they labeled it a crisis of student belonging. And a lot of that has to do with the isolation, the loneliness, the exclusion that people experienced as a result of COVID-19. So what you see on the left-hand side of the screen, they chose to describe the lack of belonging as alienation. That's one way to describe it. You could also describe it as loneliness, isolation, social exclusion. I just describe it as a lack of belonging. So just go ahead and take a moment and look at the data, what the data says about students who don't feel like they belong versus what's on the right-hand side, which is, what comes out, what type of outcomes flow out of students feeling like they belong in school. So of course you see all these things that none of us want in terms of, our own children or the students that we care for on the left-hand side. And you see quite the opposite on the right-hand side. There's correlations in research when students feel like they belong in school, which is a very specific type of belonging in the research. They tend to have higher attendance, higher graduation, better motivation, more positive behavior. And here's just a few more metrics. When you look at the right-hand side, one of the things that strikes me always is that what we do in schools has a cascade effect through life and society at large. So the degree to which students feel like they belong in school ends up resulting in longitudinal outcomes such as less likely to engage in violent behavior as adults, drug abuse, mental health issues, et cetera, and of course, positive ones like going to college. So there's pretty much consensus nowadays that belonging in school is a really big deal. Furthermore, belonging in the workplace, something that Gallup has researched for decades now, results in better employee engagement. Now, the highest level of that when it comes to Gallup is what they call active engagement, which correlates with the highest level of belonging. So there really shouldn't be an argument of like, do we want to make sure students belong in school? There's too much research to deny it, but the question is really how. How can we go about creating environments in the workplace, in the classroom, in school, where people truly feel like they belong and are getting that need met in positive ways? So one of the things Floyd and I discovered about 10 years ago is that there is this formula that when people experience dignity in their lives, for example, when they're able to treat themselves and treat each other with dignity, they feel like they belong in that relationship. They feel like they belong in that environment. And so there's a bit of a cause and effect relationship that when people feel like they're treated with dignity, they feel like they belong. And that becomes the formula that we can apply to any context. So what do we mean by dignity? Well, we turn to the work of Donna Hicks. She was a conflict resolution specialist, worked around the world. One of her conflict resolution partners was the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who really encouraged her to write about what she was discovering. And what she was discovering was that what was at the heart of all human conflict that went unresolved and unhealed were the unaddressed, unacknowledged, unhealed wounds to dignity. In other words, people feeling like they were treated like they didn't matter, people feeling like they were treated less than valuable and worthy, and so on. And so what became her life work was the concept of dignity. Now, she wrote about this in 2013 and 14, which was perfect timing for us. And the way she defines dignity is it's our inherent value and worth. Now, this is the simplest way she describes it. It's our inherent value and vulnerability. We were all born with it. So it's not something you can earn, and it is quite different from respect, which ends up being one of the big game changers for people that we work with. And I know it changed the way I looked at a lot of different things. Dignity is innate, respect is conditional. So where respect is earned, and we all know this, people in our lives have done things that have earned our respect and done things that have made us lose respect for them. But dignity doesn't operate like that. Dignity is innate. All we can do is honor it or violate it. And because we're humans with these nervous systems, when we get stressed, when we don't get enough sleep, when we bump up against our biases, once our, like when our blood sugar is low, there's all kinds of reasons that we don't perform at our best, but it makes it really easy to violate dignity. So the hard work that is incredibly simple, but we can't confuse simple with easy, is how to make sure that we're doing our very best to honor dignity in terms of behavior, professional practice, and even policy. So I'll just be quiet for a moment and invite you to read the quote here. So just to circle back to the question I asked you at the beginning, what does it take? The simple answer is dignity in practice, dignity in action. So what is that? Well, Donna Hicks, she's a friend now, and she's given us permission to integrate her work with ours. What you see around our framework, words like acceptance of identity, recognition, benefit of the doubt, independence, safety, understanding, acknowledgement, etc. These are what she refers to as the 10 essentials of dignity. They're things all of us need to feel like we belong in relationships, to feel like we are seen and treated as people of value and worth. And when we don't have these particular needs for dignity met, things end up not ending well. Conflict escalates, students drop out of school, people leave marriages, you just see it all over the place. Now, the four things I'm going to show you right now are what we call our standards for dignity: presuming competence and positive intent, building partnerships in community, repairing harm, affirming differences, and uniqueness. We have also 4 dispositions that we work on helping our partners learn how to cultivate within their offices, within their schools, within their classrooms: empathy, listening, patience, and openness. And what results from the convergence of behavior, practice, and just action in general are feelings of belonging. So these end up being the 4 indicators that we can use to gauge the type of experience people are having in terms of healthy and unhealthy. To what extent do people feel connected? To what extent do people feel accepted? Same thing for appreciated and then validated. So this becomes the framework. This is the heart of what we do with the organizations that we partner with. Is we orient them to this and we help them learn how to apply it to their own work. Very much this ends up being a lens for implementation. So the work is not really doing anything, adding more to people's plates. It's really adopting a lens to look at the manner in which we do whatever it is that we do. And so in the end, a lot of the problems, the human problems that we face in our own lives and in our organization end up being problems of dignity being absent in some way, shape, or form. So in that regard, dignity ends up being the solution. And what you see here are just some common problems of organizations that we've partnered with, and we end up helping them see how dignity is the solution to their problems. And if you're into systems thinking at all, this is a way to diagram it. If we can learn how to respond to whatever problems we're experiencing in our classrooms, in our schools, and in our district, in other words, if we can get more dignity in practice and behavior, what will result is feelings of belonging will increase. And what we know from decades of research is that when feelings of belonging increase, engagement increases. And when engagement increases, performance ends up correlating, even if that performance is something like showing up for school. So over time, what happens is our problems dissipate, and it ends up being this iterative process. So I'll just end with this, and I invite your questions. What you see here, I understand you have in front of you, and this was my best shot at learning about your district, some of the needs, talking through those needs with district leadership, and then putting together a proposal in terms of what I felt could help. It starts with orientation, making sure people in positions of authority and governance have the language to describe this lever for improvement. What exactly is dignity? What exactly is belonging? What are we trying to do here? Then throughout the school year, next year, what you see is a variety of services. Doing something district-wide is very important in terms of getting some shared language out there, getting some shared understanding, but then there's an effort to build capacity of leaders, and what that would involve is not only understanding the key ideas, but how to measure it, how to gauge it, how to keep, as a leader, your finger on the pulse of the people that you're working in service of. We help collect data and provide some analysis that point school and district leaders in the direction of where they can focus their effort in terms of getting better. And then you'll see school teacher leader teams. We thought it was important not to delay teacher leaders in terms of what do the concepts of belonging through dignity mean in terms of classroom practice. Right, and so very much that's leaning on some of the work that we've done with our book, Teaching with Dignity. And then what you see with the year 2027-28 is really trying to sustain and build critical mass around people that are actively working to make sure that their practices, their behaviors, et cetera, are aligned with the concept of dignity. So with that, I'll stop talking and I invite any questions.
All right. Thank you for that overview there. Do any of the board members have any questions on the presentation or the program?
I've got one.
Caller?
John, thank you for your time. Can you just give us just a brief example of where you feel like your program has improved a district, and maybe one district that it didn't improve it or change it, and maybe just a brief example of why for each?
Oh, sure. So we're in year 3 of implementation with Rockwood, Missouri.
Sorry to cut you off.
Under
Wait.
Superintendent Curtis Kane. And I think their traction, they're gaining a lot of traction. So I just returned from school visits, follow-up school visits, implementation coaching. And I would say the reason why things are going so well there is there was commitment at the highest level. They were experiencing a lot of escalating conflict back around 2021, 2022. Dr. Kane approached me about perhaps partnering, and we reached an agreement where this would have to be something that the board was behind. Otherwise, it wasn't something that I wanted to get into in terms of partnership. And so the very first step was working with the board. The board stayed for about 90 minutes after the meeting, and decided that this was something that they could all rally behind, regardless of any differences in opinion or perspective that they've had before. And then we gathered a community cohort of leaders from the major institutions in the community: police department, fire department, faith leaders, the head of the Realtors Association, et cetera. And we wanted to engage them in understanding really what the school system wanted to be their core values. And just this past summer, they just launched their current iteration of their CSIP, so their Comprehensive School Improvement Plan. And at the heart of it is what they call the Rockwood Promise. It's basically a promise that the school district is making to the patrons that when you send your child here, we will make sure these 4 things take place. And 2 of them is that we will make sure that your child's dignity is honored, and we will do our very best to make sure that they feel like they belong at school. And so there's all kinds of other stories with that, but it's been what I would refer to as a pretty comprehensive implementation. There's been a sizable commitment at all levels, and they're not done. And if you ask any of them, they'll say, like, we're getting good traction. And when it comes to organizational change, that takes time and commitment. But the most important component of that success story, as well as other ones I could give you, is the commitment of people in the top positions of authority. And what will help in any context is the degree to which those, not only are those leaders and people in positions of authority talking about what they value, but actually modeling it. And so I could give you other examples of that. I could name all kinds of organizations that we've partnered with where it hasn't been that much of a success story. I would say all of our proposals, all of our partnerships are pretty customized. So we try to help and engage with whatever problems they're experiencing. But I would say the most extreme versions are when we get invited to come in for a professional development day. We actually turn down a lot of those. We don't turn down, we just don't commit to it. We said, sure, we can help, but we have some long-term partners that we're committed to. And if we start filling up our calendar, that's not fair to the people that we've committed to just for, a professional development day that isn't part of a comprehensive approach. So those are, I have everything in between from there's all kinds of words for that in the professional development world. Spray and pray, drive-by professional development. It just ends up being, there's some good that can come out of it. Like teachers can get good ideas, apply for it, but in terms of organizational change, it's just not going to happen.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any additional questions at this time? No? All right, John, we appreciate you giving us the time this evening, and we'll discuss it internally here and see what we want to do.
Sure thing. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you do for your community. Volunteer members of boards just have my utmost respect. You're like a living embodiment of our democracy, so thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you, John.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
All right, we will get back on track here, and we'll move to the teacher salary and benefits presentation. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No worries.
Had to move things around.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to present to the board on behalf of our Salary and Benefits Committee. My name's Ryan Miller. I am a teacher over at the high school. This is my 4th year in the district and teaching in general. I teach English mostly to freshmen and juniors, but I have a handful of seniors as well. To start on a positive note and highlight our first slide here, we wanted to bring recognition again and highlight our top 10% APR score, and to thank the board for all that you do to provide opportunities for success and for learning for our students every day. Next slide, please. On another positive note, we wanted to say thank you as well for our PTO adjustment. Teachers have really appreciated an opportunity to be able to have more flexibility, to take absence days, to attend field trips, graduations, other family opportunities. That's been greatly, greatly appreciated and very important to our teachers. Next slide. With all that being said, we do have 3 recommendations for the board this evening. First, we have some adjustments to our blackout date procedures. Second, we'll have a new PTO policy recommendation. And third, we will propose creating a CODA incentive for some of our most experienced staff. We believe that these 3 recommendations could smoothly be implemented into our current procedures and policies, and while also providing great benefits for faculty. Next slide. We will have 2 policy clarifications or proposals that are related to PTO. The first one, like I said, is more focused on blackout dates, and the second will be a new policy proposal. So that first one on the next slide, our first recommendation here is we request that there's an adjustment to our procedure for blackout dates in the district. We propose initially that there would be 15 attendance exceptions for district-determined blackout dates. These attendance exceptions would be treated as first come, first serve, which would keep things objective and clear, while also still allowing limited flexibility on days where teacher attendance is very important, but understanding that things can happen. There's a little bit of flexibility in the language there as well. In case of emergency, more exceptions could be made on a case-by-case basis, but in general, after 15 exceptions have been made, any further requests would be denied. Additionally, our third bullet point up there, we recommend considering a review of our blackout dates that we have listed as a district to be reduced when possible. For one pertinent example, there has historically been a blackout date set in our district, the day that we return from winter break, but this day has also historically been a teacher workday. There's no scheduled professional development, there are no students in the building, and so in situations like this, we recommend that these blackout dates be reduced. That way, absence requests could be permitted on those days to promote teacher attendance when it actually counts the most. Additionally, my little asterisk up on this slide, listing all of the blackout dates when we log into Frontline has been super, super helpful for us planning absences as we go about that process. So thank you for that.
Board, the Frontline is our absence reporting system that teachers log into when they're going to be absent.
And that small change has been a big help. Our next proposal is we request a new policy surrounding our banked time off days, which is also known as BTO. Our current board policy requires that any BTO requests are paired with medical documentation. But our new policy suggestion reads as, and it's up on the slide if you'd like to follow along, employees may request the use of accrued BTO days for non-medical purposes once all PTO days for the year have been spent, including, but not limited to, personal obligations, family needs, or personal matters. Medical documentation is not required for non-medical BTO use if prior approval has been received. To give an example of how this new policy could actually impact our teachers on a day-to-day basis, imagine a scenario where I need to help my college student move into their dorm room in August, and I request a day off of work. Since I have PTO available in August, I can request that as a PTO day with no issue as a family obligation. As the school year progresses, I have sickness and other matters which use up the rest of my PTO days, and unfortunately in April, with no PTO left, I slip and break my wrist. With our BTO policy, that scenario is no issue. I can receive medical documentation from the emergency room, miss a day of work, and not be docked pay. But what if that scenario were reversed? If I break my wrist in August or September instead of in April, I would have PTO days available, and so I would have to use them, even though it's for a medical reason. Now, if my child calls me in April, and they've had an emergency at college and need my help moving out of that dorm room, I suddenly wouldn't be able to request a day off unless I were to dock my pay. If the emergency had occurred just a month or two sooner, maybe I even would have had a PTO day left over. And so our question that raised our proposal of this policy suggestion is, why should our access to our PTO or BTO be dependent on what time of year we have sickness or other matters. We also have another asterisk on this slide where we've considered a way to limit any egregious absence requests, because our current district policy would remain in place that limits egregious absences by our educators to no more than 5 days in a single month, 20 days in a single semester, or 40 days in a single school year. Next slide, please. Our final third proposal for the board tonight is that we suggest a new incentive for some of our most experienced staff here in the district. One of our recent focal points as a district has been to make our salary schedule more competitive, and we've really appreciated the boosts to our base pay and the efforts that have been made there. But we still seem to be currently lacking some incentives for teachers who have stuck around the longest. And so it can be difficult for that reason for many of our most loyal and qualified and experienced staff to stick around, especially if other districts might offer additional incentives. And this is especially important considering that districts with more experienced faculty members end up finding more success and monetary savings long-term when you look at the data. So any incentive that we could provide to our long-term staff could go a long way in improving outcomes for our student population and showing that we value that loyalty and expertise. And so on the next slide, our proposal would be a monetary proposal that would be an adjustment to our salary schedule, where none of the steps on the salary schedule would need to be changed. Instead, an asterisk would be added to the bottom, where after year 28, staff members would receive an additional $1,000 to their scheduled step increase. And that would allow those most experienced staff, the handful that we have in the district, to feel supported and seen and appreciated, and give them that incentive to stick around and really pour into our students. The next slide is the end of my presentation, and I am open to questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the board about the presentation?
Try not to be talkative tonight, I promise. Fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you for everything you do. You referenced we quite a bit. I just don't know. I'm not like, who is we?
We,
Like, who do you all represent? Obviously, all staff, I'm assuming.
yeah, so we would
Okay.
be the Salary and District Committee specifically, but as part of our first meeting this school year, we had a lot of survey data from teachers across the district. And so we
Okay.
sent out surveys to many of our teachers in many of our buildings, and we compiled a list of our biggest needs as educators, and that's where these 3 recommendations came from.
Consensus of the
Yes.
staff. Okay. Do you all have any other ideas for extra incentives besides monetary compensation? I didn't know if any other suggestions had been made that
Not
considered?
that immediately come to the top of my head. The CODA step on the salary schedule is something that we have seen other districts do, and it seems like something that could be included as that incentive without causing too much headache to the salary schedule, since it's just that asterisk step. That was the easiest thing that we came up with, but we're not closed off to other opportunities.
And that would be after year 28? if I understood
Correct.
you
And so year 29 and beyond, you would get an additional $1,000. And so even when you max out the salary schedule, you can still get little bumps.
Okay. And last question, the PTO and BTO policy, without getting into, I guess, HR stuff,
Sure.
somebody in your position, what would that person have, like, how many hours or days of PTO would somebody in your position have and BTO when you combine the two?
The BTO is a bank, and so it's dependent on how many days you've banked.
Correct.
PTO, I believe, is 10 or 12.
12?
12
on
PTO days.
PTO, and then the BTO is obviously the bank.
Yeah, and then
And
BTO is a
A
bank.
certain amount of your 12 PTO,
Can-
they carry over.
Yeah.
So the next year, you might, instead of the 12, you might have 20.
I thought it maxed out at 15.
Thank you.
So the,
I'm going to assume you're right.
20 would be
I thought you
lovely.
could carry over.
No, it caps at 15, and so this would allow us to surpass that 15 in case of emergency that's not medical.
and just for my own personal understanding, the banked hours can be used if there's a doctor's note or for medical reasons.
Only with a doctor's note
Only
that
with a
personally
doctor's
affected me.
Okay, so are you requesting that the banked hours be able to roll over to additional PTO?
That's not part of this proposal, no.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then, could you clarify how BTO would behave differently than PTO?
Prior approval would be required for the BTO exceptions.
What would be a reason for denial?
I,
Or is that the goal?
we had, that's not necessarily the goal. We had considered a few qualifications that we thought that this might apply to directly. One big one that we have is our bereavement time is quite short. And so one of the big pushes for this particular policy change is because bereavement can be very difficult for people. Another reason is for religious or cultural observances. Another reason is if my mom's house burns down, I don't want to come into work. And so if I have a genuine emergency, we just want a little bit more flexibility. The goal is not to miss as many school days as possible, which is why those existing policies would remain in
Right.
place.
Very good. Well, I appreciate the fact that you were so comprehensive on your list of examples, but it made it hard to picture what wouldn't be an
Sure.
example. So you're clarifying the intent helps out a lot, because these would be examples that we would want to have a different level of exception.
Yeah, it still would be in emergency circumstances. They would be emergent conditions, but not strictly medical, because there are emergencies that are non-medical.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Where do the banked hours come from? Are those rolled over, or,
Yeah,
Unused.
from your leftover unused PTO.
so you can roll 5 PTO days and then?
Three roll over into your PTO, and then the rest goes into the bank.
Okay, so only if you have left.
And so you have to store them up to be able to take advantage of it. If you use them all every year, then you'll never be able to do this anyways.
Okay.
Dr. Willie, is there any cap on how many, like
Yes.
how many days you can accrue?
It's over 100. I don't remember if it's 120.
120? Okay.
Okay.
I knew it was up
Once
there.
in a while, I get it right. I have 120, for example. But I've been around a little while.
How are the rolled over 120 days different than the BTO?
That is the BTO.
I thought,
The bank goes up to 120, the PTO goes up to 15.
So I've only used 4 days this year. So I'm going to have 8 days that will roll over. 3 of them will go into my PTO. So I'll start next year with 15 PTO days. And then the other 5 will go into my bank. So as my bank accrues, I can't touch those except for medical reasons after I've used my PTO.
For our audience watching, to summarize, the bank is locked down after you build it up. And so if you miss a certain amount of days and you have 3 roll over into your PTO and 4 roll over into your bank, you can never access that ever again unless you get sick and you're out of PTO.
Or you leave the district and it gets paid
Correct.
out.
Correct.
All right. Any additional questions?
Retirement.
It is
Dr.
They
Allen?
were just looking up policy, 10 days of PTO can carry over now in the policy.
10
Okay.
days.
So you can have, so your next year, you can have 22.
And what policy is that?
I'm unaware of that policy.
GCBDA. And you can carry over 10 to the next school year.
I don't think that's happening.
That would be a question and conversation for someone other than
Okay.
us 7 or 6.
Well, we presented based on our understanding of policy.
This current year.
This is the first year.
So next
for
year will
that.
be the first year, or next year will be the first year you see the rollover.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right. So you have more PTO to build up. All right. We will take this into consideration and get with admin and see. Oh, you have another question? Oh, there's another question.
I have a question that's not necessarily related to this presentation. Last year, one of the points presented on was time and plan time and have that being protected. So I assume with no follow-up this year that things have been improved or policy or things have been put in place? Like just a question from follow-up from last year to see if that was a concern then. Is it not a concern anymore?
It was not one of our primary concerns.
Okay, so through your survey data, not the same.
It was
thing?
a concern on the surveys, but it was not a primary concern.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad that got better, apparently. All right.
Agreed.
Anything else? No? Anything else you all would like to add?
Not at the moment.
All right. Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We will come back to the superintendent's report and continue on.
Yes, I left you with the possibility of $1 million deficit, so I wanted to make sure that
Thank you for
we
that.
came back to that. I do also I want to talk about just from a budgetary planning standpoint there, and we're going to do legislative update here soon. You know, there's plenty of, this is the time of year, there's a lot of, plenty of scary reasons in putting a budget together. It feels like there are more layers to that this year. However, despite everything for threats to state funding, local funding, it is still our primary goal to put additional money into salaries and benefits for the upcoming school year. And we'll start putting numbers to that. But just as an example, if everybody gets their step on the salary schedule, and that's certified and non-certified, if everybody moves one step, the estimated cost of that with our current personnel is $584,000 of additional funding. Now, that sounds like a lot. That's a lot of money. But if you are on the receiving end of that, it feels like the district really didn't do much for you because you got your step. Since we have modified the salary schedule, over half of our teachers, that step will be at least $1,000. So we're proud of the fact that the teachers are going to start to realize the improvements in the salary schedule because the steps are more consistent and they get higher as you gain more experience. So, and we do have teachers whose steps, even in tough financial years where we're not able to put additional money into the base, teachers with the most experience and the most credit hours, college credit hours, they will see $1,500 in a step without additional money. So again, it's just so refreshing to at least have a schedule that at least makes some logical sense. And we're really proud of the fact of the amount we've been able to put to the base in the years when we can, and there will be years that we can't. And maybe next year, maybe the sun comes out this spring and things look up and we're able to do even 500 to the base, I think would be widely appreciated. It's just, I don't want to raise hope that right now we're going to feel fortunate to take a step. And I don't mean that to say that we're considering not taking a step, because it will 100% be my recommendation to grant that step, because when districts in the past have frozen their pay, they pay for it in other ways year after year after year, and we want to work really hard to find, even no matter how creative, to continue to fund those annual increases for folks. It goes a long ways. Any questions on any of those two topics?
Yeah, so on the estimated $584,000 cost or additional expense, is just if everybody is where they are and they just make a step, no additional teachers get masters or additional things? Correct. Just the step.
That's just the step.
So
now,
it could be more than that.
It could be more, but there's always, as low a turnover as we have, there's always turnover. And for every teacher who retires, who gets replaced with someone with less experience, those numbers, they move lower on the pay scale, so it kind of offsets some of those other things. So this is our best just judge right now of where we're at. But as soon as next month, we're going to want to bring some type of I think last year we brought 3 financial scenarios for revenues and what it could do for us. And that's what I see us being able to do a month from now, so that it isn't just a June workshop surprise for everybody. A couple other things I want to highlight. Our information campaign for our school bond issue is underway. We've met with more than a dozen groups. We have another group that we meet with in a couple of weeks. It's all been very positive. There's a lot of enthusiasm around the potential for Matthews. There's a lot of enthusiasm about the middle school athletic facility, and that's not just among middle school families. Elementary families are really excited about that, especially families who have middle school or high school kids that are older siblings and see the potential for additional options for their younger kids. I also want to draw attention to the report from the administration. In the technology section, there was a reference there that I wanted to draw your attention to, that we are next school year transitioning away from middle school students taking their devices home with them. They will still be assigned a device, but it will be kept at school. This is won't they be assigned to a device? I thought they would.
They'll have a cart in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Thanks. I get in on some of the conversations. I'm not necessarily in on all the conversations. But they'll not be issued a one-on-one device, and therefore they're also not going to pay the insurance fee that comes associated with that. So there'll be fewer fees for middle school students next year. They'll still have access to the laptops. They just won't be taking them home. And that's in part in response to feedback that we're getting in our community, just to do our part to limit screen time as well. And then I want to point out, this is something that we would bring back on agenda next month, but board member Aaron Scully was deployed months ago, and we understand there's a possibility his deployment could be extended. So, okay.
So as of today, Mr. Scully has been extended through at least May 31st.
Oh, okay. So I think, I'll double check, but I think the action that you took to excuse his absences maybe gets us, I know it gets us at least through March, but it may be that it needs to come back on the agenda. We would to address any absences before we hit that third absence, so that the board can take some steps on that. But that's good. And then by the time we're there, he'll probably know a little bit better what to ask for. Those are really the highlights I had for you today. I would open it up for any questions. I did add to your calendar, May 8th is the Scholarship Awards Night for the high school seniors at 6 p.m. And I know the board will be giving out some scholarships that night too.
All right. Any questions on the report overall? No? No. Okay. Thank you. That will take us to the legislative highlights.
Very good. I wanted to bring your attention to 3 bills that have significant implications for public schools. All 3 of these have been passed in the House and now go to the Senate. The legislature is on spring break next week, so there won't be any additional activity that happens next week. And I'm not real sure I didn't track what all took place today, so I don't know if anything more significant than these 3 is headed our way. The first two bills on here we talked about last month. So what's the main change for them is that they have passed the House. House Bill 2780 went back to committee. That was the report last month that I gave you. In committee, it got split into 2 bills, and the calmer of the 2 bills did pass the House and now has gone on to the Senate. The 2 most significant implications in the revised 2780 is the siloing of our tax rates. So instead of right now we have one tax rate. If property assessments go up significantly for residential, for example, then collectively we reduce our overall levy, and that affects all taxing. Like that affects agriculture, that affects commercial. One county in the state, St. Louis, they do siloing. And so what that means is whatever happens with commercial assessed valuation only affects the commercial levy. And so if there's a dramatic increase or decrease in commercial, then it's the residential don't pay for it or benefit from it in any way. So it's siloing. It's hard to tell for in our situation what the advantages would be because it all depends on, we're very residential heavy. So it really just depends on which set of AV is making big adjustments. I'm not as worried about this one. If it's what the world wants to, have siloing, I think we can roll with it. Probably of more significance is right now there is a minimum operating levy that we are allowed to have is $2.75. And if the year that we passed our levy, we were getting really close from an operating standpoint. But there are a lot of school districts in Missouri. The only reason that their levy is at $2.75 is because that's the minimum. And so what the legislature is proposing in this bill is to allow that minimum to drop over time for them down to $2.20. So basically minimizing the local effort. And the smaller districts are going to be concerned, but Grain Valley is not immune to that either because we've gotten close to 275 before and it could happen again. So anyway, I bring that one up. The next one is House Bill 1766. It has been revised, but the main idea is that new growth would now fall under Hancock Amendment. I'm sorry? Okay. I've been wrong on things, so correct me. New growth is, and new construction is an example of that. A district like Grain Valley benefits from that because it doesn't fall. We don't have to adjust under Hancock for those new growth numbers. And so there have been years in recent years as our growth has started to slow down a little bit and we're not getting a new SAT increase from the state. There have been years that money has helped us add money to the base for teachers in a time when we are still growing. So we'll keep you posted on that one. And then new on our list, but something that's been talked about since the beginning of session is House Bill 2710, and this is an A through F district report card. This has been revised. This would basically give each school in each district a letter grade A through F, which I think the simplicity appeals to families, but the problem is that you're oversimplifying something that's very complex and comparing all districts to the same set of standards. It runs the risk of being a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you put a school or a district for whatever happened that year, you give them a D or an F, they maybe really actually weren't failing, but that F is going to send a message that could lead to other factors that lead to them actually failing. The other concern that we have in a district like Grain Valley, we had our 92% on our APR, which could very well have earned us an A. Next year, we could perform even higher, but if the neighbors perform higher as well, even though we do better, and we got an A the year before, now we get a B. Because in this bill, there's a cap, but only 10% of the districts can earn an A. Can you imagine if we proposed to our families that on our grade cards, only 10% of our students were going to get an A in each class? Do you think this room might be filled with concerned parents? So anyway, that's where it is. All three bills go to the Senate. The House passes a lot of bills. The Senate doesn't pass very many bills. So these are three to watch. There's other topics to watch. We continue to keep an eye on open enrollment, expanding vouchers. There's some literacy legislation out there, Parents' Bill of Rights. There was talk about MSHA oversight. I haven't heard much about that recently. So we'll keep an eye on all of those, and we'll just report back on the things that seem to matter most to us here in Grain Valley.
All right. Any questions on the legislative
Yeah,
highlights?
quick clarification. I have not read 2710. You kept saying schools and then districts, so I just want clarification. Is that schools within, so Prairie Branch could have one grade and Snyabar could have another?
That's how I read the bill.
Okay.
Others have said they think it's just for districts. It's a little bit confusing. I read a line in the bill that tells me that each school gets a letter grade for their performance, and then the district as a whole gets a letter grade.
All right. Any additional questions on the legislative highlight?
Yeah, I'll say something. I had a great time with Dr. Welly on Tuesday in Jeff City. Very frustrated with a lot of the stupid coming out of Jeff City. And you know, it was very beneficial. So great conversations. To put things in perspective, Dr. Welly and I, one of the senators we spoke with, just kind of bringing it home where we could talk about the names of the roads here locally and where the district is going to expand and the actual impact that that's going to have on us without the new construction rollback. So instead of just these blanket statements, it's like when we're sitting down with them and showing them the map of where the new homes will be and the dollar amount that we won't be able to receive, and then, you know, people's lives are attached to those dollar amounts. So it was very interesting. There was bipartisan agreement that a lot of money would be cut, and there was also bipartisan agreement that nobody really had a solution, and they all admitted to that. One of the senators during a special session had submitted a bill as an amendment that basically would have given them 3 to 4 years to be able to figure this stuff out instead of kind of pushing it through. And that bill got overtaken by the machine. And it was our Senator, Joe Nicola. I do believe that he has Grain Valley's best interest at heart after a lot of these conversations. I'll just leave it there. I'm pretty frustrated with Jeff City. The only meeting, Dr. Welly and I had a wish list that we'd been texting and contacting throughout the week and weeks leading up to it, and we'll go back down and follow up with Speaker Patterson. It's a sad thing coming out of Jeff City. So if it doesn't get fixed, well, it'll get fixed.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Pollard. Anyone else, any comments or questions? All right. That'll take us to new business. We will start with the draft 2026 through 2031 CSIP strategic plan.
Yeah, Dr. Allen is going to kind of get in the nitty-gritty with the board on this. I just want to say that we had 3 great nights with terrific engagement from our families who represented in this room. We had a full house. We had students and parents. We had community members who either used to have kids in school and don't anymore, or they never did, but they're still vested in the success of our schools. We had a lot of staff here. We had school and district leaders. So our facilitator did a great job of squeezing everything out of them. We did leave. The last night that we were here, we really focused on SMART goals, and the room generated a lot of very specific, measurable goals. And when we looked at all the input, what really affirmed for us was the best way for us to move in the way that, as far as we want to get, in as many ways as we want to move, was to not bring forward SMART goals at the highest level, but instead take the SMART goal approach on a year-by-year basis, more of our annual priorities, the way that we have been doing it the last 5 years. So the folks that were in the room, we shared this with them on Monday, and we got a little bit of feedback. I don't know we had a little clarification, so I think it's gone well, but we would give any reassurances to members in that room that the SMART goals that they wrote, we intend to use those more along the way to inform annual priorities. And I'll give you a couple of examples. When you have to have a specific objective measure on something, we're very limited in what we do on those measures. So it's state assessments. So we have SMART goals that around how we're going to do on our state assessments. And we have SMART goals around how we're going to do on our annual climate and culture surveys. But other than those two measures, it's really tricky to say that we're going to move the needle in any other way that doesn't have a big measure. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Allen to kind of outline, talk about the big rocks, and take it from there and explain the proposal. Dr. Allen?
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of information that, you know, was sort of our biggest takeaway. I will say, you know, page 1 that contains our vision, our motto, and our core commitments were things that, you know, were developed individually in small groups, then groups partnered together, and then as a whole room, we came up with a consensus. So I felt like we walked away with a thumbs up overall from everybody in the room, that it was agreed upon for the vision. We want to keep the same motto that we've had going, not just because it's on our wall, but because we live it and breathe it and believe it. And then our core commitments that came together also have been revised and everybody agreed on. I guess it was by the third night, then we for sure had even the language of our big rocks. So these 4 areas, which are very broad: student learning and success, safe environment and strong sense of belonging, equipped and supported team members, and engaged families and community, were again something that the entire room agreed upon, and we were in good shape. So as Dr. Welly alluded to, that third night, then within each one of these big rocks, each table made what could be up to a dozen SMART goals within each one of these categories, or that could have been 5. And so when we left that evening, you know, you've got a series of dozens of specific SMART goals for each one of these big rocks. As you know, when you make a plan for 3 to 5 years, you don't know what you don't know yet. And so we just didn't want to be that specific or that narrow necessarily. We wanted some way of grouping them to move us forward successfully overall in a broad sense, and then be able to each year sort of modify or tweak those SMART goals with the action steps that'll go with them, and just be really responsive year over year. So what the most difficult part was just kind of grouping all of these SMART goals together, which we did with a lot of our leadership team, and trying to find sort of the broad messages within them that the community is wanting to see within the district. So for example, within student and learning success, we were able to get that within 2 goals, and then there's a few sub-goals, I would say, within those. And so one is, you know, guaranteed and viable curriculum, specifically looking at reaching reading proficiency. So there's a huge emphasis with reading proficiency. In order to do that, we felt like we needed, you know, a literacy framework. We needed to, which is going to be more specific to the elementary level, that first bullet point or letter A. We needed to make sure we finished our goal of developing curriculum. We want to revamp, I would say, our professional learning communities, and that would be pre-K through 12, really looking at Tier 1 core instruction. And then this piece of just making sure that we're doing everything we can to help students plan for their future. Not only are we providing a future-ready curriculum, but we are developing all of the skills and steps and reflection in our students to develop and best plan for themselves, not only through middle school and high school experiences, but even beyond that is going to be a major focus. So if you can envision then, under each one of these A, B, C, and D would be specific SMART goals on a yearly basis till we feel like we've accomplished those. And we can't tackle everything all at once, but I think you've seen that process with our last CSIP. So then our second one is more around mastery-based feedback. One of our big first goals is to finish establishing our proficiency scales. We don't feel like we can have accurate grading, which is down to sort of the granular level, until we have established proficiency scales so we know what we want all kids to be able to know and do with every learning target. So that'll fit into, letter A will fit into a lot of the grading conversations and revamping that we want to do there. And then we also want to do a better job of developing capacity or educating within the community. And we don't seem to get a lot of confusion or questions at the elementary with the grade card or mastery-based learning. But as soon as we hit 6 through 12, it seems to be like we've got less of an understanding. It feels less familiar to our families. So our idea was to really put an emphasis on educating families at the middle school level, so that when they hit that system that feels different than when they went to school, they feel like they have the knowledge to advocate for their child and have those conversations with teachers. So again, there'd be a lot of SMART goals with action steps underneath each one of those. So I won't spend as much time, and I don't need to read all these to you, but I just kind of want to give you the feel or the vision for how that would work to extend our work for the next 3 to 5 years to really get us to where we want to be. So within safe environment and strong sense of belonging, we've got both safety and security of students and staff, along with our sense of belonging and a strong sense of community. And then we've got cultivating student purpose and belonging by increasing extracurricular participation. That was something the group that was kind of mentioned in every single group is those students who don't belong to any particular extracurricular activity, how do we tap into that group and expand participation? Under equipped and supported team members, we're looking at attracting, developing, and maintaining high-quality personnel in all roles, which should be a never-ending goal, but there's a few more specifics in how we're going to measure that, reflect on that, and then make changes on that on a yearly basis to be responsive to the times and what we need to do there. And then making sure that there is targeted professional learning, no matter what your role is, on a year-by-year basis to make sure we're providing people fulfilling professional development. When engaged families and communities, there's just one big overall goal, which is strengthening community ties by fostering a culture of connection, belonging, and transparent communication. And so that does have several things within it. Direct school involvement opportunities with positive communication methods, which will tie in the volunteering pathways. Volunteering came up a lot, but again, we don't need to spend 3 to 5 years revamping our volunteering process. That could happen in a year. So we wanted to keep that more broad. Really providing better follow-up when we do surveying to try to increase participation in surveying. We feel like the community said if you provide us more information about what impact our feedback had on the district, we'll be more likely to participate in the future. So whether that's short video messages or different ways that we could really show the impact of the community's survey results, because we know in this room how we use them, but not everybody necessarily does. And then, using multiple communication platforms such as social media and website, networking opportunities with local businesses, and then trying to continue to highlight or spotlight and recognize more programs within the district, all the great things we're doing. So hopefully I've given you just kind of an overall vision, if what we were looking for from both our strategic planning group, our admin team, anybody who participated and looks at these, as if we feel like we missed the mark anywhere. So when we went through and kind of gathered and grouped all of those SMART goals, is there anything that we missed the feel or the measure on? And our board were wonderful participants in the evenings as well. So you all have your perspective of your groups also to contribute. So, it is a draft. We are open to feedback. We have made tweaks based on feedback, or I should say some major revisions based on feedback already. We feel like we've organized it in a way that could set us up for success, but we are totally open to additional comments and feedback as well.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Any questions on the draft?
I had a couple. The first one on the Big Rock Goal 1, you talk about the literacy framework across all elementary buildings. However, we know that those students that have not reached reading proficiency by 4th grade will then start moving into that 5th, 6th, up to high school, and they're still required with the Aspire training. I understand the importance of elementary, but shouldn't it be that all of our students are, if you look at the state's goals, if you look at the training that's been implemented with letters and now moving into that middle school, high school level, I think it should be all students, because it's not just, we're not just seeing kids up to 4th grade. It's across our whole district. And then when we think about how that success in student learning is occurring, they're not being included in that goal. And I think it's a necessary piece for us to think about all of our students to match the motto that we live by every day.
I completely agree, and I'll take a look at the wording again for how we could look at that. I think the thought here, just to share kind of the thought process, is this is our goal. Like, this is what we want to see. We know that's not reality, but I also don't want to say 90% of students will be proficient readers by fourth grade. You know, I'm not going to identify the 10% who are not. This is our goal, but we do have to be able to have an action step or a SMART goal in place to catch anybody who doesn't reach that goal, or what do we do if we have a new student to us that isn't proficient and beyond fourth grade, definitely needs to be part of our action steps or our SMART goals within it. But I'll definitely take a look at the language and see if maybe it's too narrow, but I will say that the framing around it was, this is our goal. Like, this is what we would love to see happen, to reach a point where every student by the start of fourth grade is proficient. The reality is it's going to take us years. We don't know if we'll ever reach it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we will definitely want those steps in there because we already have plans for that, for other training and other systematic literacy frameworks. But it's great feedback. Let me think on that and how we might rephrase that.
Okay, and then the other piece is in Big Rock number 2. When you have the A, B, C, and D, were these the order in which the committee put them in, like, relevance of what was important? And the reason why I'm asking is that we just heard tonight when we listened to the consultant talk about how research shows that higher level buy-in is important for any of this to happen. And so D is actually the lowest on the level. And if you think about it, yes, the perceptions of bullying and or teasing are important, but then you look at D and it says that the issues. And so I'm just wondering how the committee ranked these, or if these are in the order, because it's great for teachers to have, and we know that we have character strong and all of this in the lower levels, but if we look at the high school and our middle school numbers, we're not seeing enough of D with our students. So that was just my next question.
It's a great question. I originally had these where they were Roman numerals under goal 1, so it was like 1, 2, 3, Roman numeral, and then I'm like, nope, that ranks it. So I went to ABC. So it was not meant to be a ranking of any kind. I am totally open to reordering. I mean, it was really just literally an ABCD. When we had the SMART goal creation, I wouldn't say there was any sort of ranking. I think it was just as ideas came up at the tables. So I didn't really have a sense of, but these were the most common things that came up over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I think we can make them whatever order. We could order them in order of importance, and we could switch those around, no problem.
I just think that if you look at it as an idea of a framework or a foundation, it's better to see the steps in which that we're going to take, because we do know that that big rock for the last 3 years has been discussed over and over again. And so maybe putting them in things that, we know we need to start with this and then move to this. And, it gives us a very concrete movement, as opposed to some people will look at this and see it as a numerical value, that this is the last and the least important of those 4. And I think that since we've been in this discussion and cycle for the last several years, we need to rethink that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Any additional questions on the draft?
Questions and comments? Yeah. First question is, and I mean this, who is this for? I mean, we went out to the community, we talked to them, but ultimately the board owns it. And I guess some of it's written in a way that I don't understand. So I want to make sure that we kind of reread it.
Yep.
For example, professional learning communities as a primary strategy to ensure Tier 1 core universal instructional. That is not written in a way that the public would generally understand what that goal really means. Okay. So may want to think about that. And all these are just comments. So, take them and do with them what you will. The first under core commitments is we will provide an education that meets the needs of all students. I think we will strive to do that, but I think saying that we will do that, if we don't, gets us sued. So I would probably put a word in there that we're going to try our very best to do everything we possibly can for every student every day. But I'm not sure that and the example I can think of, and maybe this isn't a legitimate example, if a student doesn't qualify for a 504 or an IEP, we're not going to do one for them. We will do everything we possibly can to help them. but we're not going to give them that designation, correct?
Correct.
So the way this reads, it leads me to believe that we would, even if we wouldn't. So I would just read it very carefully to ensure that we're not putting ourselves in a position, we want to do everything we can, but we're not going to do things that we can't or shouldn't. So, the next one under core commitments, we will ensure safe, inclusive, and collaborative environment where everyone feels a true sense of belonging. When we say everyone, are we talking about every student, every staff member, everyone? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Number 4, under core commitments, we will help staff grow, and I would add develop to support student success. Again, these are just things that popped in my head. Take them or leave them. Number 6 confused me under core commitments. Excuse me. We will be transparent in communication, to promote student achievement and trust within our community. I agree with all of those separately, but I'm not sure that they all belong in one sentence. To promote student achievement, I'm not sure how that goes with transparent communication. So you just may need to help me understand that, but the way it's written just was a little confusing to me. I agree with all of it, just separately. I would remove the definition for inclusive. I think it's important that we define inclusive, but I would include a glossary with terms that are defined and not put it where it's at. I'm sorry, I know this is a lot. I had to
This is great.
have April print it off to go, so I could write on it because it was too much to remember.
That's fantastic.
Under the Big Rocks letter A, goal 1, letter A, we talk about ensuring reading deficiencies are addressed. I would add that we are trying to identify them as well. So identify and address deficiencies, which may require a little revision of that sentence. I talked about C and not really it's too technical, I think.
Yeah.
Sure. You can reword that.
Big Rock number 2, those are two very different things. And I wonder if just throwing this out there, I wonder if those should be different big rocks. To me, safety is a very different thing than belonging. When I think safety, and maybe it's just I need to change my perspective a little, I'm thinking security. And the way it's written under the bullets, like A, the district will continue to analyze and invest in safety procedures. That's a safety thing.
Correct.
So for me, those are two different things, and we may want to consider those as separate goals with separate measurable components.
Okay.
I'm almost done. On goal 2, under safe environment and strong sense of belonging, letter A, I just want to understand, and we don't have to do this tonight, but I just want to understand the way this is written. It almost sounds like we're requiring every student to be in an extracurricular activity. And I don't think that's what we're trying to say. We want everybody to feel like they belong. I get that, but we don't want to say that we're going to identify you and the way it's written, we're going to identify you and we're going to support you, which, again, that's out of context a bit, but within that sentence, it almost makes me feel like you have to belong. And I don't think we want to take that approach. So. And I don't know, she said, go ahead and say what you said. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to jump in, but then on that one, it says increase the number of students who are not currently involved.
We want to decrease.
We want to decrease.
Yeah, thank you.
I think this one had been reworded. Originally, it was just increase the number of students involved, and they're like, well, what if the same one kid is now in 6 things, and we aren't tapping into the population who aren't involved? So it went through a lot of iterations, but yes, thank you for that.
Under Big Rock number 3, goal 1, letter A, the district will maintain a consistently high annual retention rate for all staff. Are we going to put a target around that? What does consistently high mean? Will we, I know there will be a layer under this where we have our metrics. Will there be a metric around consistently high?
Yeah, we thought one of the things that we would need to do when developing our SMART goal for, say, this one would be, look at the last 3 to 5 years, look at the pattern, is a 2% or should I say decrease, or a 2% increase in retention, 2% decrease in people leaving, or 3%, what's reasonable? And then, what would be reasonable to do the following year so that we could set like a yearly metric, if you will, as opposed to setting a metric. We want to be something 3 or 4 years from now, it would be something we could do on a yearly basis.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then finally, Big Rock number 4. You might want to consider, just my opinion again, just eliminating that big rock. I think that everything in there is in the rest of this document.
Oh.
I think that really you're just reiterating what all of these others are. So it may be something that, even if it means breaking it out just a little bit and embedding that a little more clearly, I just think it's redundant with all of the others.
Okay.
So I have thrown a lot out there.
Yes.
I went through it really quickly because I know we all want to get out of here, but feel free to
No,
call
it's-
me
it's
anytime
good.
and
Yeah.
I can give more clarification.
Yeah, I appreciate
you.
that. Maybe after making some revisions.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Allen, could you
Yeah.
just, what is a non-monetary perk for this district?
Could be work days as opposed to a PD day. I'm just giving you one.
Wearing jeans.
Yeah, it's a favorite, right? I'm trying to think. I mean, I would say, I'm going to give you another small example where Dr. Gump's back there. There she is. We're talking right now about the amount of time outside of the workday. And so one of the groups that gives us an enormous amount of time outside the workday is our PDC committee, which is our professional development committee, because it's always after school. They're here till like 5:45 some nights. It's a late night. And they work monthly. And so we were trying to consider about maybe a new model that's job embedded, and we provide substitutes for that. So they're not working out. So, I mean, I could go on and on, but I think it's just evaluating anything we can do to take off teachers' plates, make lives easier, not just teachers. That's just who's coming to mind for me right now. It would just be all kind of non-monetary perks that would make the job more appealing, if you will. But
Add one more thing to what Jared was
Yeah.
saying about goal 2 under 2 with the increase of number of students, but then I think about equip and support team members, thinking about how do we continue to support these extracurricular coaches and advisors in the monetary way for the time that it takes to run these clubs and run them successfully so that students do feel connected and like they do want to be there. Because I just think about some of the very minute pay that our staff gets for extracurricular activities, and now we're asking them to take on possibly more. What does that look like, and how are they compensated? Because I'm sure that there are some programs that are done for free every day, and ensuring that we're equipping and supporting our team members means how are we supporting them to ensure that the other big rocks can also be supported? So that was just one thing that Jared made me think about.
I'll second Mr. English on that. I felt like I was able to attend all 3 evenings. It was great. The food was awesome. Conversation was excellent. I do feel like from what I took away was that the simplicity of the wording of it. There were students there, and a few times at our table, we ended up asking, we're sitting here talking, and we just turned to, I won't mention her name, but we turned to the student and just said, well, what do you think about it? She's like, I don't know what that means. And so Mr. English's point is just how, I felt like maybe it got a little more wordy than when it left the final evening. Just kind of simplified communication to where if a student can't remember it, a good idea kind of stands on its own kind of a thing. But anyway, yeah, I'd be happy to see the revision also, so.
Yeah, I think it's important as well to make sure that it's understandable by the community members that are gonna look at it. My wife asked me tonight about something, and she's got a doctorate. She's a pretty smart lady. She's like, "What's that acronym mean?" I'm like, "Well, if you don't know, then there's a problem with that." So we need to make sure that the community knows what we're putting out, and that's in all forms of communication, so. All right, any other comments for this one now? Will it come back at the next workshop?
We'll bring it back in April.
April.
And it could be really either one of those, won't be an action item.
Yeah.
I could bring back revisions for more comments and
Okay.
feedback.
We'll look at the agenda
there's
for
no
the
hurry.
workshop and just see where we're at, and we'll get it back soon.
Hey Jeff, just one thing real quick. Is this to all those that came, all the community members and stuff? I appreciate those that came out. I got to be at 2 of the nights. Does this go before them as we're doing some of this, since they put in a lot of time and effort? What kind of communication to them is
Do
being
we continue to
had?
have, I know we've had the initial draft sent out to
Yeah.
them.
Just
Well-
because we want in future years to be able to encourage people to come back and not seem like that it's.
Yeah, so
was
once
a
it
waste
gets
of time.
revised
Or
again,
what's
will
the-
it go in front of them again before it comes here, or
Or
what
how are
was
they
the?
just at least
yeah.
notified, I guess, or
We can continue to
communicated
share
with?
it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that email listserv with that group, and so just as we make revisions and as we go down through the process, we'll definitely keep them informed with each iteration of it, and then once it gets approved, obviously, we'll share it out. And then I would say for the larger community, that'll come more next fall, when we actually launch this plan. You know, we're still at the same time trying to finish our last one, so that's sort of where our efforts are focused on, you know, what we're doing right now. So I think as far as the broader community goes, really putting this in front of them would be at back to school next year. But
Yeah.
our group, we can communicate all through the process.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I hadn't thought about it, but I think that's important to keep them engaged. I mean, they were engaged the first time with the draft, and then if they all of a sudden get hit with something that they hadn't seen before at the end, they might be
For sure.
taken back.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it would just,
help
be
with
good,
engagement
help
later.
them, yeah, as well. So
Yep.
thank you for that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yes, it was.
All right.
It was great.
Any other comments on that? All right. That'll move us to the preliminary non-binding tax rate. I would look for a motion to approve the preliminary non-binding tax rate as presented.
So moved?
Second.
All right. Dr. Willie, you want to explain our
Yes.
preliminary
This-
tax rate?
This is the time of year that we are obligated to set a preliminary non-binding tax rate. And what does that mean? Well,
Just that.
just that. There will be a point this summer where property owners get a preliminary statement, and it needs to show what all the taxing entities are proposing, are predicting. And there's no way to know what we're going to set as our tax rate next September. But what we do is, if we pretend we were setting it today, and if we were setting it today, our assessed valuation has dropped since September, since the last time the district set the tax rate. And most of the drop is because of the county executive's cap of growth on commercial property at 15% for most commercial property. And so because the AVs have come down since September, our levy goes up to counter that. So that's why the $4.9023 is 17 cents higher than the tax rate for 2025. This will not be our tax rate, but I do think it's fair for us to reflect a preliminary non-binding tax rate that's higher than last year's, because it's probably going to be higher than last year's, because the AV is not likely to be higher than what last year's AV was. So,
Very good.
Yep.
Any questions or comments on this item? All right, all in favor of approving the preliminary non-binding tax rate as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item will be to add a middle school swim and dive coach stipend for the spring of 2026. I would look for a motion to add a middle school swim and dive coach stipend for the spring 2026.
So moved?
All right, Dr. Welly?
Yeah, this is a $2,580 stipend for Coach Julie Riley, who is here tonight. This program is underway. It was a goal that we had set a year ago to do this, but we had not set it. We hadn't set it on your approved list because we didn't know last fall whether or not we were going to pull this off. So we are really glad that the wheels are in motion, but it's only fair that she should get paid for the work that she's doing.
Yep, she is doing a lot of work with that group, and she has a lot of high schoolers helping her with that group. So, any comments or questions on this item? All in favor of approving the middle school, or the addition of a middle school swim and dive coach stipend for spring 2026, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Okay. Is there a
Second.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.